and welcome to the My Ray of Sunshine podcast. My name is Mayra, and I'm here to help you receive the advice you deserve. Now, if you all are here, it's probably because you want to know exactly how to start understanding the perceptions and interpretations of beauty. And what better person to ask than to ask Lushea, who is here with me today. So, welcome, Lushea.
Hi, how you doing? How you doing?
We're doing great. So tell us, Lushea, a little bit about yourself and your podcast too.
Okay, well, a little bit about my podcast. My podcast is called Lushea Wonders Why. And basically, it's a podcast where I find that a lot of people have a lot of questions
Mm-hmm.
to things that people conform to, when really those questions are there to be asked. But sometimes a lot of people, their minds are just tunnel visioned one way, that they're not broadening their perception on certain things. It also looks into stigmas of social and psychological talks and discussions, whether it's within family stigmas, whether
Mm-hmm.
it's a society stigma. And it's
Mm-hmm.
just really trying to break the barriers, but open the minds of the whys that people have. For example, there could be a why to some people who discriminate, people who like one another from the same sex. It could be a gay marriage.
Mm-hmm.
It could be transgender. Some people have a lot of questions rather as to why. Why has someone gone down that route? What it's some people may have a religious view, but regardless of what view you have, there's a
Mm-hmm.
why to it, and I think it's important to not judge someone's choice of what they may want to, they might be heterosexual at first and then they go into it doesn't, but don't let it affect you,
Yeah.
and don't poison of the other minds of other people because you feel that you're affected, when really it's that person's decision, it's that person's choice, it's that person's life. Is
Mm-hmm.
it affecting you? Is it stopping your bills? Is it stopping you? No. So again, it's looking at stigmas to questions why people have a lot of questions to why this and why that. And really people need to just open their minds and focus on self more,
Mm-hmm.
because not everything is about you. So
Yeah.
it's Lucia Wonders Why, and it's just breaking down those barriers, social talks, personal talks, and whatever it may be.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it's about. That's Lucia Wonders Why.
I love it. I love that you said that you're breaking the stigma
Yeah.
and the barriers and just everything attached to it because, people are afraid to talk about those things, talk
Mm-hmm.
about things that are real.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it's so important to bring things to light and to be able to discuss how, at the end of the day, you're living your life. How is someone else's life impacting you?
Yeah,
And it
exactly.
shouldn't.
It shouldn't, exactly, it shouldn't. But
Mm-hmm.
that's just an example. But I talk about a range of things on my podcast. But in terms of me, and who is Lucia? Lucia is I like to say 5'1", but
Me
I'm
too.
but, but realistically I'm 4'11". But I like to keep on the five. I'm a
Just
five
round it
foot,
up, round it
yeah,
up.
just round it up. 11 individual. I'm a creative person. I also do a regular 9 to 5 like everybody else. But luckily I work from home. So
Oh,
blessings are
good.
in order.
Mhm.
I'm also a rising actress as well as a podcaster. So
Wow.
I'm getting back onto, I had a bit of a gap because I was in training, and I'm getting back onto things even through the lockdown. There's
Mhm.
always a will and a way. So I have been doing things behind the scenes of rebuilding my portfolio. So I'm
Mhm.
a creative in those two aspects, really, a podcast owner and a rising actress, and uh,
Wow.
soon to be author. But
Oh my gosh.
still writing. I'm still writing. I'm still writing.
That is incredible. I'll need your autograph after this episode.
Okay.
That's okay. That That is incredible. I love it.
I'm getting there. It takes time. I'm getting there.
Yes. Good work takes time.
Yes.
So like you mentioned, like you just need to marinate it. And right
Yes.
now you're just adding all your spices
All right.
and
Come on now. Come on. I'm just adding all my seasonings in here and there. And when it's ready to be mixed and cooked,
Mhm.
oh, it's gonna be fabulous. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I can't wait. Please
It's
let me
gonna be,
know.
I will. It's gonna be an interesting journey. I've done
Yeah.
some things that are behind the scenes at the moment that are going really well. So it's just everything takes time.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and patience and
Yes.
for it to like all come together eventually, which it will, but like sometimes it's better not to rush it. That way you feel like, okay, I'm ready. I can't wait to release it and I feel that I did everything I could. So, yeah, it's so important. I'm so happy for you.
Thank you. Thank you. I think I'm the type of person when it's finished and when it's really done, that's when it will click to me that, oh my God, I've actually finished. It's done.
Yeah.
Because I'm in the moment of working and processing it, I'm still
Mhm.
going through the processing stage. Do you know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Yeah.
It doesn't feel real until when it's
Mhm.
finished.
Oh yeah, of course, of course. That's how I felt with my podcast too. I'm like, am I really doing this? And then I launched it and I'm like, I did it. Like it's so weird.
I
Like
can relate to that.
yeah. Like even hearing my first episode in the car on Spotify where like I listened to everything on there, I'm like, wait,
You
what
don't
did I
recognize
do?
yourself. You don't recognize yourself.
I
You well,
don't.
who is this woman? Who is this woman? Who is this person? You don't recognize your own, and you're listening to your own advice.
Yeah.
Like, oh God, yeah, that actually, it's a really weird kind of.
Yeah.
I can't explain it. It's
Oh
really
my
weird.
goodness. It is so strange. And I recently hit the 6 month mark of podcasting and I decided to like celebrate myself by
Yes.
by listening to my first episode just to see how much I grew.
Oh, that's amazing. I thought you was gonna say you brought yourself a cake. Oh, honestly, I thought you know what it is. I've actually done that.
Oh, really? That's awesome.
I actually brought myself before the lockdown.
Yeah.
Um, I'm not actually embarrassed to say. I went to the supermarket and I went to the bakery section and I went to the little section where they do happy birthday cakes, where you can buy a happy birthday cake.
Yeah.
It wasn't my birthday, so I chose a cake that didn't have happy birthday on. Um,
Okay.
but I chose a cake that was from Mary Berry. She's like a famous
Oh.
baker kind of
Mhm.
thing. And basically, I just took one of her cakes and I brought it home, had it with a cup of tea, and that was me celebrating my 6 month
Oh.
mark.
Oh, I should have done that. Wait.
You still can at the end of 12 months. You still
Yes,
can.
I'll do that. I'll buy
Yes,
myself a cake and
celebrate.
just eat it myself, not
Yes,
share.
yeah. Oh wow, not share.
Okay, maybe I'll share. I'll share. That's fine. But yeah, that's so funny. I need to do that. That's a
It's
great way to
important. It's
celebrate.
important to celebrate yourself, and I
Mhm.
don't think many people are aware of that.
Yeah.
Celebrating yourself. I mean, some people might find it weird that you'll go to Starbucks, you'll go to Costa, and you'll actually see people ordering a coffee, a latte, and they will sit with their iPad or their newspaper, and
Mhm.
they will sit. And I used to be a person, I used to question, how does that person have confidence to come
Yeah.
to their home, to sit in a public place,
Mhm.
drink a latte and read? Like, how do you have that confidence? Who
Right.
does that? But you know what? You find yourself, it's a very soothing, not caring what other people think, because I grew up as if you went to socialize,
Mhm.
you're socializing with a friend. It's always with a friend. I
Mhm.
can't be at McDonald's by myself eating.
Right.
I have to be with someone. I have to be
Mhm.
because I used to have that perception where I look silly if I'm eating alone. Does that
Mm-hmm.
make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
I
So
feel that way too.
exactly, but again, you come to an age and a stage where you just don't care anymore. And if it means to celebrate yourself, and some people might want to go for a run. I went and bought cake to celebrate my podcast, and
Yeah.
it's not looking for other people to give me credit
Mm-hmm.
or give me affirmation to say, I'm celebrating me. I don't have to want attention from other people to say, Lush, let me do this for you. No, I can contently celebrate myself and be happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Celebrating our victories is something that we have to get way more used to. And,
Yes,
and
it
being able
started
to,
it started from probably elementary school or junior
mm-hmm.
school. They give you award cards, don't they, for you doing really well in your spelling bee, or
Uh-huh.
you're doing really well in your class.
Yeah.
You got the highest mathematic test. And
Mm-hmm.
they give you those kind of square cards to celebrate you, and
Yeah.
then it stops when you go to secondary school in the UK,
Mm-hmm.
um, especially college.
Mm-hmm.
All of
Yeah.
that, but all of that celebration of achievement, it drops. It doesn't.
Yeah.
It just fades away, and then you don't celebrate yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You don't celebrate yourself anymore because you're not going to be given an award. Do you know what I mean?
Right. Exactly. No sticker.
No sticker, no lollipop, nothing. So
Nothing.
I think that's why it's important, even though I'm in my 30s, I think it's important that, yes, I may not get a card from the head teacher or the headmaster to say, Lush, well done for, fixing a door, or well done for completing your first season of podcasting. But let me go out and celebrate myself and, you know,
Yeah. You have to. You
yeah,
have to. Taking initiative to, prioritize yourself is the best feeling.
yes. Because
Best,
I
best
think
feeling.
once you do that and you
Mm-hmm.
work on yourself, if you was to get into a relationship, you're not dependent on that other person having to celebrate you all the time
Mm-hmm.
to feel. So if you're used to doing it on yourself, if
Mm-hmm.
then another person who comes into your life, that's just a bonus.
Yeah.
That's a bonus, and that's something that you should say.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate from that other person if they, give you gifts or whatever. That's when you become appreciative. Do you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? But if,
Yes.
if you're someone who depends on constantly the attention and from others, and you don't shower yourself, or you don't recognize,
Mm-hmm.
you know, the qualifications, it doesn't have to be through school.
Mm-hmm.
It could be podcasting, it could be baking a cake, it could be making, apple crumble, whatever. You got to celebrate these things yourself, because you're growing as a man, or you're growing as a woman, you're
Mm-hmm.
growing as an individual, and there's
Yes.
no manual. So
Mm-hmm.
when you have learned to cook your first stew,
Mm-hmm.
you celebrate that. You
Yes.
celebrate the heck out of it.
Yeah.
When when you've painted your first fence, and you
Uh-huh.
go to that DIY store, and then you paint it with the proper paint, and then you look and you say, you know what, I did that. I did
Mm-hmm.
that. So celebrating yourself is very important, because there's no manual or no guide.
Exactly.
And some people are brought up with no parents, even
Mm-hmm.
though they're from one foster home to the other.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are not celebrated at all. So if you can get into the habit of
Mm-hmm.
celebrating yourself, it's really good.
Yeah, and it's something so easy. You can just treat yourself here and there. I'm always treating myself. I'm like, I've been good. I've been good. I deserve those 10 sweaters that I just picked up.
10, not 2, but 10.
Maybe I did 5, but that was literally me the other week. I'm like, I've been so good. I'm proud of myself. Why
Yeah.
not? Just like cash everything.
Yes, yes, yes. I agree with that. I would just round it down to 2 sweaters or 3. But no, I agree with everything that you said there.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe I was a little sarcastic, but yeah, it was 5. It was,
Yeah.
I think, 5 or 4 maybe.
Yeah, that's good.
But hey, the more the merrier. So
Yeah, one for every month, right?
yeah, just renewing my wardrobe casually.
Yeah.
So, what advice would you be able to give others who want to try to understand the perception and the
Mhm.
interpretations of beauty? Like, what does that even mean to you?
I would say because there's a lot of perceptions.
Mm-hmm.
Perceptions are a mind trait state of thinking,
Mm-hmm.
and it can be self-sufficient to the person, or it can be broadened where you're thinking of other people. So it can be where interpretations are carried. It could be that they're shown in a certain way. It
Mm-hmm.
could be that they are very much out there in terms of I don't care what somebody thinks. It
Mm-hmm.
could be how they are measured. Measuring, for example, could be how many likes somebody gets on their
Yeah.
social media.
Mm-hmm.
Measuring could be the person's social surroundings of who they have in their bubble. You
Mm-hmm.
know, that could be a form of measurement as well. It could be also how somebody carries themselves um, in terms of how they dress, but it could be how someone communicates themselves to the online world
Mm-hmm.
compared to being the same person off screen as well.
Mm-hmm.
My advice to somebody, and I'm saying this based on my experience, my advice to find beauty is to make sure you're looking for certain characteristics within a person that sustains you and that fulfills you.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, you have the traditional media and you have the online media,
Mm-hmm.
and you have a lot of stigmas
Yeah.
around how you should look, how you should think, how you should deliver yourself. And possibly if you've got low self-esteem and you're going through a spectrum of depression, because depression, it's not just somebody crying in a corner. Depression can be hidden, like
Mm-hmm.
the actor Robin Williams for I think it was Miss Doubtfire. You know,
Mm-hmm.
depression can be hidden really well. And
Yeah.
always, not all the time, but it's the majority of the time, people who can hide depression are the most bubbliest, are the most, you know, you're all right, morning, when really it could be the opposite way around compared to what they're going through. I
Mm-hmm.
find it important to find out what sustains and carries you, because it's all good constantly going to the gym
Mm-hmm.
and making sure your body is great. It's
Mm-hmm.
all good, you know, you see someone and how they do up themselves all the time, and every single picture on their social is them looking very, very perfect. It's all good being materialistic. You know, don't get me wrong, I like bags. I
Mm-hmm.
don't have a lot of them because I budget my money in certain things that have priorities. But I
Right.
like bags, and I like jewelry
Mm-hmm.
as well. But at the same time, it's one of those things where you have to get to know what somebody stands for. So know what somebody's values are.
Mm-hmm.
Know what
Yeah.
somebody's values are, because I'm telling you, that is the type of beauty that will keep a good friendship. It could develop from a friendship to a relationship,
Mm-hmm.
and you can have a good relationship if it's in terms of your family as well. Because not because you have family you've got to love everybody because all they're blood related, but you
Mm-hmm.
do have, not just you, people who have loads of cousins everywhere, absolutely everywhere. And
Mm-hmm.
it's not all of your cousins that you are very close to, because let's be honest, not everybody in our families we get along with or we like the personality of.
Right.
So
Yeah.
you latch on to the family members who you connect with more or have a similar mindset to you. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Or you know, that's just being normal.
Mm-hmm.
So I find that the best advice that I could give somebody is make sure you find the characteristic that develops a friendship and grows a friendship authentically, uh,
Mm-hmm.
and you're both respected.
Mm-hmm.
The outer appearance is very good, but you know, it's important to find the value of the person first, definitely. And
For
and
sure.
not be too judgmental. So that's,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh my goodness. All those points you made are so helpful because I think that outer appearance is temporary. It's
Yes.
temporary beauty. Okay. You're not going to look like that next year, the year after. And if you do, good for you. But 50 years from now, it's not going to be there.
Well, it isn't, as what Judge Judy says, beauty fades, dumbness is forever. Uh,
Hmm.
that's one of her favorite lines that she talks in one of her programs. But that's my definition of best advice.
Yeah.
Sometimes people have to go through life and feel it and experience it to then gain those emotions of being hurt, to
Hmm.
then realize, you know what, I like that person for the wrong reasons.
Hmm.
I was attracted to them realistically for this. But
Hmm.
you would want to be attracted to someone, as I said, that can hold you in terms of sustaining who you are.
Hmm.
Because you don't want to be attracted to somebody who looks great, but
Right.
talks down to you,
Oh
who
no.
demoralizes you, who controls you.
Hmm.
You don't want some, or domestically abuse you, or
Oh.
any type of abuse, because
Hmm.
immediately your beauty from that person just fades away.
Yeah.
But then you're
Instantly.
stuck, you're stuck, you're stuck. If you're not strong enough, you take a long enough time to break away from that person. If you're not strong enough, eventually you do get out, but it depends on how quick you get out. So it's very, very important to realize beauty words as well can be a misleading thing.
Hmm.
You've got so many people out there that can talk the talk. You've got salespeople, sell
Yeah.
windows. That's their job. They've got to sell you windows. They
Yeah.
want you to buy. You've got some people who you go on dates with and they can just talk. They
Hmm.
talk. They talk it really well. This is why you've got to watch. You've got to watch and lay low and watch and really find out what's their true beauty.
Yeah, what is a true
Yeah,
root of their heart? Like what is actually on the inside, which
on the inside.
obviously you can't really see off the bat, but that's what you have to do to get to know someone. Just have a conversation, see what values they have, what beliefs they have, like
If they're consistent as well. They're
yeah.
consistent with those beliefs and those values, and do
Mhm.
they match what they portray online?
Mhm.
Do they match? Do they match? Because I've seen plenty of mostly more women. I've seen more than men portray themselves completely different online
Mhm.
compared to what they are offline.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's awful because, for someone who is scrolling on social media, you see that and it's like, wow, like something's wrong with me because I'm not at that level or I'm not at that stage in my life where I can buy a house, and it's like it almost keeps like eating at you like you're like eaten up inside and it's like it's an awful feeling to not feel enough or not feel like you're doing as best as you can do when in reality everyone's lives are different and you can't compare your life to someone else's.
You said a key word, comparison.
Mhm.
That's another thing as well. I would give advice to do not compare yourself. Do not compare yourself whatsoever. You've got to have the confidence within
Mhm.
yourself first. That's where the beauty is. So that
Yeah.
would be my answer to your question.
Yeah, I love it. I loved everything that you touched on. And how would you say the perception of beauty is influenced?
Or the perception of beauty is influenced. I would say it's influenced a lot. It can be influenced from your culture. It can be influenced from society,
Mhm.
from your surroundings. It can be influenced as well, again, through online media. It
Yeah.
is more dominant now because we're locked in. um,
Yeah,
so
true.
it's more dominant now because we're locked in. But that's how I think it can be influenced as
Mhm.
well. Those are the natural influences that we have around us, whether it's your home life or how you're brought up. But at the same time, that's what conflicts to when you get to adulthood, because how you've been brought up and your educational, social learning kind of development compared to when you reach an adult, 18, 19, 20, the conflicting thing then is your family or how you've been raised, and then
Yeah.
maybe the person who you want to be, who you truly want to be, because you've learned so much knowledge now and you've gained a more thicker skin. Well, you should do. Everyone develops differently, but you gain a different skin of who you are, and you're still learning who you are. So the biggest influence, I would say, is society as a whole. And the
Yeah.
person who gets influenced the most is yourself. But then it's like a cycle. So what do I mean? You've got the people who influence you as you get older, the outside circle. And then you've also got your personality of what you think is right, what you think is wrong, and the things that you dislike and like, and what you're comfortable with and what you're not comfortable with, and what you give leeway to and what you don't. You've got your personality, which is forever evolving. And then you've also got the outside, the personality, and then you've also got the adult world. So it's a constant cycle in my eyes of family, society, friends, fine. Your personality, which is forever changing, which turns like the world, and
Yeah.
then you've got adulthood. And adulthood, from when you turn to an adult to however long you do live, those are the two conflicting things: your personality, who you are as an individual, and the adult, and they will always conflict with one another. But some way throughout the journey, you should be able to find yourself or know yourself, one of the two.
Yes.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, it's just so many things that can influence the way you perceive yourself even. And it's like we're constantly changing. Like our personality is constantly changing just because we're finally learning more. I feel like the more we grow up and every year that we turn an age older, it really allows us to like reflect and learn more about ourselves, which I think is like the most beautiful thing, because I love birthdays for that reason, because I always like reflect on that year, like what did I do this year, like how did I grow as a person. And I think that everyone is constantly evolving. And then I think that it's also so important that people can just, not be so harsh on themselves all the time, and not like hang on to the negativity so much. And that obviously that's easier said than done, but it does take a lot of practice and self-control to not let yourself down.
Yeah, and we also can get in our own way as well.
Yeah.
Depending on who you are.
Mhm.
I've gotten in my own way many of times, and it's always through some sort of procrastination.
Mhm.
And the procrastination comes from fear.
Yeah.
And then, so everything has a root cause to it, really.
Mhm.
Why do you procrastinate? Because you're stuck. Why are you stuck? There's fear. What is it that you're in fear of? I'm in fear of this. I'm in fear of that. Right. So
Mhm.
how did you get? There's always, again, going back to Lushea wonders why. There's
Mhm.
always a reason why behind something, and that's why I feel like the biggest influencer, to answer your question, is just the outside world.
Yeah.
The biggest influencer, I would say. But it depends, because your own family can be the biggest influencer to you as well
Mhm.
in regards to beauty. It can be a conflict then, where you want to exercise, or you want to carry your hair in a certain way, or you want to you've decided you want to shape your eyebrows for the first time.
Mhm.
Your family discredits having your eyebrows shaped. Everything should just be naturally the way it is, and you just it could be a very serious conflict depending on your culture and how you're
Mm-hmm.
brought up, really.
Yeah. And I think that the older you get too, like when you're young, it's so easily it's so easy to be controlled by like the outside world,
Yes,
but the older you get, it's
yes.
like,
You find
okay,
your
I can
voice.
handle it. Yeah. You find your voice at last and it's like, okay, like I'm not going to get stuck in this cycle. I know myself. And then you feel a little bit more confident. And I think that's what is great about just learning about yourself and discovering that you are enough.
Hmm.
And you don't have to look a certain way to feel enough.
And that's why I think you've touched on something very important there. It's good not to be ignorant
Hmm.
and scope out different people, scope out Spanish hip hop, scope out American hip hop. Don't just stick to one thing. If you like to, it's like people who are interested in becoming a model,
Hmm.
people who like to dress up and they like to model. You're not just going to be looking at one fashion designer.
Yeah.
You're not going to be doing that. You're going to be having a wide range of designers that you can tell people that are your favorite, that you love. So you have to explore different types of clothes that suit you, and I think it's important to just explore and don't be ignorant to just staying in one lane. I
Hmm.
think it's important just to explore different avenues, the same way that there's different cakes that can be baked. um
Hmm.
I think it's important to explore uh beauty, and don't just stick to it as it's just a makeup thing, because beauty is not just one thing. Beauty
Yeah.
has a wide range, just like an autistic spectrum is
Hmm.
quite wide. Beauty is actually quite wide, because sometimes if you listen to the opinions of older people,
Hmm.
their definition of beauty, compared to someone who's in their young 20s, they're teenagers, two different, definitions of what beauty is.
Hmm.
And that's
Oh,
based
yes.
that's based on life experience,
Hmm.
So it's good to explore and broaden your mind.
Yeah, for sure. They definitely differentiate a lot. A lot, a lot. But it's good to know that in today's society, we're really progressing and we're more so like more open minded rather than like, okay, they have to look a certain way because our life has changed from then, and so has our values. And that has to mean that we can only go up from here.
Only. Oh,
Yes. And how can the interpretation of beauty be carried?
okay. The interpretation of beauty can be carried through various ways. It depends on how you perceived it to be carried. So it can be carried very boldly. It can be carried with confidence. It can be carried in shyness.
Mhm.
Beauty can be carried in being very honest and abrupt.
Mhm.
um, Beauty can be carried not just as a physical appearance, but think about those who are blind, think about those that don't have vision, think about those that certain senses are disabled compared to the senses that me and you have. We can hear, we can see, we can touch. I can touch the table right now. You can. So certain people don't have all those five senses.
Mhm.
So again, beauty can be carried. It can't just be how someone looks, because if you're someone that has an impaired vision, whether it's both eyes or one eye, beauty can't be in how someone looks.
Mhm.
Beauty has got to be in language. That's how beauty can be carried. And those languages either can be seen, can be heard, or can be written. So that's how beauty can be carried.
Oh.
Because sometimes when you go, well, I've gone to an art museum and I
Mhm.
don't know the artists on the wall. I see their name. the art is beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
In England, I've gone to one of the museums, and you just go there and you just see various types of artwork. Don't know these people who've painted these pieces or sculptured these pieces, but that's beauty, because it's about what the person has made.
Mm-hmm.
So then that makes me think they're a beautiful person, you know.
Yeah.
So it can be carried through somebody's talent. You know what I mean? The
Mm-hmm.
person may not be physically attractive to look at, depending on what you find attractive.
Mm-hmm.
But if they can cook, or if they have a certain talent in art,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it just changes your mind how you view somebody,
Yeah.
you know? Because it's
Right.
just, wow, why did you create that? Or why did you
Mm-hmm.
sculpture that? And then when you listen to what they have to say, that's why I say beauty can be carried through words, you
Mm-hmm.
know.
Yeah.
And if you have an impaired vision, or you're slightly disabled, or got a learning difficulty, you have no choice but to find other ways of what beauty is. You have
Mm-hmm.
no other choice.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's people like me and you, and other people in the world that have all five senses, where we're just spoiled. We're very spoiled, because we then look for beauty in other things, which makes us very spoiled compared to the person who has impaired vision, or has only one leg.
Mm-hmm.
They
Mm-hmm.
have to find the real beauty. And it shouldn't take, some people are just born with certain disabilities, or you go through life and then something happens
Mm-hmm.
tragically, and then
Right.
things happen. So then you beauty is looked in a different way. You've got your glasses have changed, your whole eye vision and viewpoint is different. You've got, I was watching the news a couple of weeks ago, and you've got a man who is disabled, very much disabled from the waist down, but from the waist up he is fine.
Mm-hmm.
But the age gap between the love of his life is quite large, but she does not see the fact that, oh, he's waist down, I can't be. She has gotten to know him
Mm-hmm.
through being online with him, and then eventually meeting up with him, and then
Mm-hmm.
eventually living with him, and then being his carer, and then now being engaged and wanting.
Oh.
So again, beauty scene is carried differently.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just carried in one way.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
It
I
is.
love that. I love that because there are so many ways that one can be beautiful. And the fact that you said it's carried by language, by
Mhm,
just talent, your
mhm,
soul, your heart, it does show with the things that you do each and every day, the way you communicate with people, being kind. You
mhm,
know, it's as simple as that. And it's like those are the things that people look for. It's not just like wanting to make sure that, they have similar values to you. It's finding a partner that is like different than you, but like can also inspire you in so many ways and motivate you and keep you going where you guys both just uplift each other. So,
that's what beauty is about. Because it's only that can hold you and maintain you.
mhm.
It's the only thing. So I
Yes.
agree with what you said.
Thank you. I love everything that you've been saying so far. Um, so what would you say are some common misconceptions about the definition of beauty that we have in today's society that differentiates from what we thought was the true definition of beauty back then?
One of the common, that's quite a long question. I'll break it down in my head.
Sorry.
Um, it's all right. I think one of the common misperceptions about beauty is, I'm going to be very raw and very honest with it. One of the most common perceptions of beauty is um, to look like a certain way, and this can be caught up with wigs and weaves. Right now, I have a wig on. But there are certain wigs and weaves that it's mostly seen as the fact that you've got to wear a certain look or portray a certain music artist, because that seems to be the trend. I mean, you know, if Rihanna shaves off half her head, then, you know, all of a sudden a lot of women, they want to shave off half their head because Rihanna did it and it looked good on them, and it will look good on them, and it will look good on her. There's nothing wrong with having different hair colors in your hair. There's nothing wrong with having a wig. There's nothing wrong with those things. But I think when you're following a trend, you know, that's when you can lose yourself, because then you're not being yourself. You know, if Eminem dyes his hair blonde or Justin Bieber, you want to do it because they've done it, and no, you should have done that long before Eminem did it.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly. Just because you like it, you know?
Exactly. That's one of the common misperceptions about beauty. I think one of the most common misperceptions about beauty as well, I find, is how you are perceived online. It's like, I find that some people, you can tell when someone is talented in a particular thing. And I think if you spread yourself too much and you want to be perceived as someone who is about 5 different creative artists and you're good at everything, I think it can be misseen, or it can be misjudged that you've got to be good at everything.
It's really unfortunate that sometimes we look at, you know, the artists, the singers, and we're like, this is how I need to be in order to be beautiful, to be successful, to be attractive. And it's like, that's not the case. It's really not the case. There's no one else in this world like us, you know, like we're so unique in so many different ways. And that's what really makes us all beautiful in that particular definition. And I think that that's the most inspiring thing, knowing that there are so many varieties of beauty that we can just kind of hold on to as far as what represents us as a whole. And how do you think beauty can be acknowledged, and how can that be contradicted?
Okay, beauty can only be acknowledged if you acknowledge it for yourself. You
Wow.
don't make it be acknowledged through the eyes of somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
That's how beauty can be acknowledged. When beauty is accepted by yourself and acknowledged by yourself, then it's for you to, however you choose, to then, I would say, think of it like a performance on stage. It's then for you to show the world or showcase your talent. Yeah. However you find beauty to be, when you're ready, that's it. If you like to wear bold tights, yellow, blue, green tights, and you just got this thing about tights, and you know that's your quirkiness, that's your thing. Then when you're ready, you know that's a part of who you are. So it needs to be acknowledged by you. If it's not acknowledged by you first, you've got real big problems. Real big problems, especially going into adulthood. You know, don't make it be that it's through the eyes of another. Make sure it's through the eyes of your own first. How it can be sort of acknowledged, and how it can be, what was the other thing you said?
How it can be acknowledged and how it can be contradicted.
It's, oh gosh, contradicted. How it can be contradicted. It can be contradicted when you are influenced, but it depends on what influences you.
Yeah.
So that's when you can have a dilemma within yourself. It goes back to, I think, question 2 or question 3. The influences can create conflicts, but the only way you won't have conflict is if you're confident within yourself.
Yeah.
That is the only way. But when you're confident, don't be ignorant. Don't be
Mm-hmm.
cocky. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be cocky about it, but listen to the views. But it can be contradicted by the influences that you have around you.
Mm-hmm.
It also can be contradicted, even though we look at social media a lot, but
Mm-hmm.
social media can also contradict itself as well.
Yeah, for
um,
sure.
it can contradict itself. Um, so, I think this is why um, you do have it with famous people. You can have a famous person that is all about celebrating charity. Charity, we do well by the poor, we help the needy. Or you can have that we're fantastic on fuel and we believe that plastic needs to be recycled and all this greenery talk and things like that. But
Mm-hmm.
then how they're living their lifestyle is the complete opposite of what they preach or what they stand for, what they stand by. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where we can contradict ourselves, but that would be leading ourselves astray. So
Mm-hmm.
it's important to know who you are and find who you are. And if you are going to get contradicted, make sure it's the outside influences that contradict themselves, but you are not contradicting yourself. So
Mm-hmm.
you need to know yourself first.
Yeah.
Outside influences change all the time,
Mm-hmm.
but make sure you're living and you're alive. Um, you're living in life and you're living the life that you love and are willing to grow in, than to pretend or portray a life that seems acceptable on social media, but you're not doing it for yourself behind closed doors.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, it's important to make sure that you're being true to yourself always and being transparent as well. And even if you feel beautiful, there's a difference between feeling beautiful and feeling confident that than being cocky about it, like, and hurting people in the process and
Oh God,
just
that's
being too
awful.
uptight. Yeah, I mean, it's like there's different ways. As long as you're not like allowing others to feel any less about themselves while you're feeling good about yourself,
Mhm.
like, then that's all that matters, is that there's that like equality and there's that like reinforcement that sometimes you have to give other people who may not be confident or who may be like very shy because of the fact that they are not comfortable in their own skin. And it's just a matter of, encouraging them that, everything, like, everyone is beautiful in their own ways, and you don't have to look a particular way in order to be considered beautiful. So it's just like being comfortable with the idea of, okay, if you're confident yourself, like, help others get that way. And it all starts with a compliment. A compliment can go a long
Yes,
way.
definitely. And it's free, acts of
Yeah,
kindness is free.
it's
Acts of
completely
kindness
free.
is free, I'm just very as it is. If I'm going shopping, I'll put on a woolly hat. I'll probably look a bit tomboyish. I'll put my Vaseline on, put my cream on my face. Haven't got
Love
time
that.
for, mascara and all that. I ain't got time. All I
Hmm.
want to do is get my shopping and go and come home. I just haven't got time. So, you
Hmm.
know, I don't even have earrings in when I'm going shopping. It's just my earlobe as it is. But it it is what it is, and to me, I've gotten past the point where I used to be a person where I couldn't leave the house without eyeliner or mascara. I,
Mm.
I I was like that in my early 20s. I
Mhm.
couldn't go every time I went to college, mascara and eyeliner, mascara and eyeliner, mascara and eyeliner. Honestly.
Wow.
Now, oh my gosh, I wouldn't care less. And I think when I say now, I stopped caring less. I would say from 2019. That's when I just couldn't care less.
Mhm.
And then lockdown happened where I didn't have to go to work much. I
Mhm.
started staying home and working from home. So guess what? your mascara is not being used.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? And it's like, oh, and you know, your eyeliner's not been put on for a while. And you
Mm-hmm.
know, you put out the rubbish and oh, my mascara's not on. And I'm putting
Mm-hmm.
out the rubbish, but my neighbor Wendy wants to say hello and have a chat. Oh, I haven't got mascara on, but we had a chat and it was great and I felt fine. So what's the problem?
Yeah.
Again, it's all those questions and baggages that we
Mm-hmm.
pile on ourselves sometimes. And it's amazing how we can self-sabotage ourselves
Yeah.
in various ways when we
Mm-hmm.
don't need to. We just don't need to. Yeah.
Yeah. It's completely unnecessary and it's bad for our own mental health as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. Definitely.
And that kind of brings me to my next point, actually.
Uh-huh.
Asking, like, why do you think it's so difficult for women in particular to feel comfortable in their own skin?
I think it's difficult based on how advanced technology has gotten.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I think it's became more difficult, because social media and the phone has become, I don't know the statistic, but I know it's become one of the main, if not the top three controllers in society now,
Wow.
for men and for women. And I think it's your mobile phone. I
Mm-hmm.
think the more Apple increase their technology in the Apple phone, the more Samsung increases the technology in their phone. I think that's why it's made things incredibly difficult,
Mm-hmm.
because accountability now is at a place where we don't hold ourselves accountable.
Mm-hmm.
It's where other people and other ways that people can get access to you. It's like you leave the responsibility in someone else's hands to validate yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's why it's become difficult. That's why
Mm-hmm.
it's become difficult, because we're getting further and further away of being grounded, of being humble.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it's become difficult.
Yeah.
Or it's the mobile phone, the same mobile phone that advertises on your adverts on YouTube, in the
Mm-hmm.
telly. As good as it is,
Mm-hmm.
it can be a curse at the same time.
Yes, very, very harmful to the way you feel about yourself. And I mean, I just think it's so important to not be so focused so much on technology at times, especially when it comes to the way you feel about yourself and how you perceive yourself. It's all connected. And I think that, like, as long as, like, we try to remind ourselves of who we are constantly and grounding ourselves, like you mentioned, really it's the little things that can make a difference. It really is. It doesn't take much effort, and all it takes is just for you to remind yourself, like, hey, why am I acting this way? This is not who I am. And then, once you recognize that and are mindful of that, you can steer away from it.
There you go. You got it. You got it. You got it. You got it, Maya. Yes, you
Thank
got
you.
it. You got it. You can just talk on my behalf. Yeah, you've got it in one.
No.
You've got it in one.
Oh,
Definitely.
I'm glad that you're also teaching me a lot about this. So it's great. It's great to have the ability to learn from each other.
Yes, definitely. Definitely.
And what would you tell someone who may not fully love what they see in the mirror?
Oh, what would I tell somebody? I would, based on my experience,
Mm-hmm.
I would get them to journal.
Mm-hmm.
I would get them to journal, and sometimes you get a lot of realization from writing from yourself. It's your pen, it's your hand, and you're being very honest on that sheet of paper
Mm-hmm.
about yourself. So I would tell someone in terms of trying to get over that barrier of not loving themselves or not liking themselves. I'd say to journal. And the most difficult thing to do, just like it was difficult for me to hear my own voice on my own podcast and listen to myself laugh, The most difficult thing to do is to critique yourself in front of yourself. As you know, it might be a bit easier if someone writes about you. You know, how do you think, what do you think of me and the friendship that I give to you? And oh, you can write about me, but when you have to write about yourself, it's a whole nother spin, because there's two routes. You either avoid, or if you don't avoid, then you literally dive straight into the deep end of who you are.
Right.
So that can be the dangerous thing, whether you avoid being honest with yourself, or whether you go down that route of just being honest with yourself. If you're someone who's stingy, but you're someone who's kind, so you might be kind in sharing food, things like that, but you could be stingy in getting anybody any gifts throughout the year, whether it's your godson, it could be your sister, it could be your father, it could be, you just don't do any gifts, you don't even give money, you just don't do cards. So you could be stingy, but you could be kind. You know, you could be graceful, but you also could be political. So there's so many traits and things that can be of a conflict. And what I would tell somebody who's finding it very difficult of loving themselves is to journal and to be honest in that journalism.
Yeah. I think what has also helped me too is like just having like positive affirmations, looking at yourself in the mirror and thinking like, wow, I'm really rocking this shirt. And even if you don't feel it, that's how you have to talk to yourself, because like I said, it's difficult to critique yourself in front of yourself in the mirror. Like
in the mirror, oh God, it's like, what is it about ourselves that we're so scared to see? When it comes to being honest. Why are we so scared of ourselves when it comes to being honest? Why? It's ourselves, it's not somebody else. But I had a really, really good queen, a good friend of mine, and we had a self-care week, I think 2 weeks ago. And each one of us out of the Queen's group, we had to give a task to everybody else of self-care. And one of the tasks that I loved and helped me was giving myself affirmations in the morning in the mirror, where it's now on a sticky note and a sticky note board beside the mirror in the bathroom. Just to remind myself of some of the good qualities about me. Because it can be very easy to critique yourself negatively, but not, be balanced and focus on the good things about you. So I think in terms of anybody that has to get over themselves, I think like what you said, good affirmations, researching different authors, speakers. We've got such an amazing tool right now compared to people who were in the 1950s and 60s and 70s. What is online now is nothing what they had back then. So I would say, get your mind right and research different authors. If you're not a reader and you're not good at picking up books and the books is too much for you or whatever it may be, go on YouTube, find motivational speakers. And that is something that I'm very passionate about, because not everybody is a kinesthetic learner. Not everybody learns the same way. So, I would say food for the soul. And not necessarily food as in cooking. I'm talking about feeding your soul with positive things, because maybe you're a person whose mind needs to be expanded, but you don't know. And if you don't know, you are a victim. But when you do know, you're not a victim anymore. So that's where you hold yourself accountable. So explore in getting the right food for your soul. Really explore and take the time out. If you don't take the time out, the only person that you're going to be stuck on is yourself. And then you'll just be in your own way, constantly on a hamster's wheel, in your own way all the time.
Yeah. Wow. I love how you put that.
Yeah.
I love it because it's something so simple that like even if you don't feel like you're at that point where you can start complimenting yourself, like just hearing positive things can change the way you see yourself.
Oh gosh,
And
yeah. Oh
and
yeah.
and it's like a TED Talk, that's why those things exist
I
to
mean,
feed your
back
soul.
in my granddad's days, 1930, that was never, ever, ever around.
Wow.
Never. No. The to get positivity
Mhm.
is a lot more harder back then compared to being in the 21st century that we're in. A lot harder. And I don't know the statistics, but I don't think that we are using as much time and energy to put good soul, good food into our soul that we should
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just adapting a habit. Some people like to meditate and do yoga in the morning.
Mhm.
I find that hard because I love my bed and I love my pillow. And the form of that, it just sucks me over and over. It's hard. I can just about put one foot out, but to get out. So it's just getting into a habit.
Yeah.
And if yoga's not your thing, all right, we'll journal. And if the
Mhm.
mornings aren't doing it for you, do
Mhm.
it when you can do it, but make sure you get into a habit of doing it. The
Yeah.
time might not be consistent, timing might not be consistent, but focus on the habit before you focus on the time of when you need to do what you need to do. Focus on just getting into that habit.
Yes.
I mean, if you can get into a habit of making a cup of tea because you feel like having a cup of tea, then you're into a habit and you feel thirsty. That's something that you need. So if you know what you need to put in your body and you enjoy what you put in your body, then do that for your mind as well. Feed
Mhm.
your mind as well.
Yeah.
Your mind.
Yeah, that is, like something so small that we
Yeah.
normally would overlook, but it can really help shape who we are and shape the way we see ourselves, which is completely inspiring, I
It is.
feel.
It is. It is.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And why is it so important to practice a self-love and self-care? I know you mentioned just feeding your soul,
Mhm.
which is really important. Is there anything else that you would say is like the reasoning why it's so
No, I would say it's important. I've got into the habit now of just adding a bit of self-care. So just journaling. I go past midnight because I just don't get my timing right, but I'm just trying to get into the habit at the moment. Just
Mhm.
journaling, how I feel. And I've also started journaling, even though this sounds completely random. I've started journaling my kitten because my kitten can't write naturally. But I've only had him for
Aw.
nearly a month. So I'm journaling his development and his happiness and how he's been. So I think to myself, I think if to me, I would say basically it's important to feed yourself, not just for the mind and the soul, but I
Mhm.
think you need to be kept grounded.
Yeah.
I think you need to be throughout however long you live. I think it's important to indulge in self care to keep you grounded,
Mhm.
honestly. Because if you don't do it, you get caught up with work.
Yeah.
And depending on what company you work for, and depending on your duties and your responsibilities, and if you have to take responsibility of another work colleague, you can get into the robotic cycle of we all have to work, we all need income of some sort, but you can get into the robotic kind of method of not living. You're
Mm.
just being alive. That's all
Mhm.
it is.
Yeah.
You're just being
Yeah.
alive, but you're not living. So I think it's important to indulge in self-care
Mhm.
however often you can.
Mhm.
Try and get a routine in place,
Yeah.
um, however often you can. Keep you grounded, but also to feed the mind and feed the soul, because you're forever, like you said earlier, you're forever evolving. Don't think because, oh, I'm 28 or I'm 30 now, I've reached 30 now,
Mm-hmm.
I'm this kind of woman. And no, you're still evolving, and you'll hear older people, older than
Yeah.
yourself, saying, oh, I'm still learning, I'm still this, and you think, but what? You're 55, you're 65, you're
Mm-hmm.
80, and yep. Still
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
the answer, really.
we're constantly changing, and the importance of grounding yourself and being able to tune into yourself to discover a little bit more about who you are
Yeah.
is fascinating,
I
because
think
we're
if you
constantly
don't
learning.
ground yourself, I think
Mhm.
you, how can I say it? It's like before COVID-19 and this lockdown, I went to get a massage one day, and I
Mhm.
don't do massages regularly. And the woman told me, which I never knew nothing about. She was like, she was doing my back, and she was like, oh my goodness. And I'm looking at her like, what? And she's like, you've got a lot of knots in your back. And first of all, knots. The only knot I've been brought up with is a knot in a rope or a knot in a shoelace.
Right?
So I don't
Right.
know what. So I don't know what you're talking about.
Knots in my
So
back.
that's in my back. So then started explaining, while she was pushing her elbow, and she was like, "Yep, your muscles are this." Now, bearing in mind, I've been working every day.
Mhm.
I don't feel anything wrong with my back. I'm walking fine.
Mhm.
I'm coming down the stairs fine. So I didn't know I had a problem with my back. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I stretched. I didn't know I had a problem with my back. But again, there's hidden things that we don't know in our body that we carry. And sometimes when you don't tune in or get self-care in, your body becomes hard. And the same way your body becomes hard is the same way you disregard yourself, to the
Yeah.
point where you don't even know. You don't
Mhm.
even know it. You don't know. You're just literally alive, and you're
Mhm.
in such a robotic routine
Mhm.
that you've forgotten about yourself. You've forgotten how to find happiness.
Mhm.
You've forgotten how to celebrate yourself. You've forgotten how to validate yourself. So if you do not imply some form of self-care, I'm
Mhm.
telling you now, you will become, like they say, hard as nails.
Wow.
You will become, and it depends on what age you discover yourself, but you will become just like hard wood. You won't even know yourself from yourself.
Yeah, wow. That's incredible, because I mean, we go on with our routine every day, like you said, working full time and like just doing your thing, and then we don't even realize the amount of tension we have in our bodies,
You don't.
that literally is like us. It's us. It's a part of us, and it's like, if we're not taking care of our bodies and just like our mental health as well, and just how we're feeling, and we're not really sure like what even a knot is on your back and how to like get rid of that, like that's something that we have to tune into. And speaking of, I kind of really want like a massage now, because I feel like I'd be right there with you. It's like
Oh wow. Well, one of the things that I do every other day, because we can't go into hotels or spas anymore, what
yeah.
I've done, I've just ordered on Amazon for the past 2 months now.
Mhm.
I ordered a spa thing for my face, and I
Oh.
ordered oils and stuff like that. So what
Oh.
I do now, which I never used to do, but again, this is one of the plus things that lockdown has brought to me, despite of the virus going around the world. I have, you know, I pamper myself every other day, and the littlest thing I do is face spa myself, and I do it
Mhm.
every other day. And if I miss that other day, then I do it another day that I can do it. But I
Mhm.
put my mask on, I take my mask off, I steam my face. I
Oh,
put
that's
a,
so
and that's what I do. And I have a cup of tea at the end of it, you know. So
yeah.
it's something that again I do, and I'm telling you, you feel different. You
Mm-hmm.
feel absolutely different. And because I enjoy that feeling, because a lot of our unsuppressed emotions, our unsuppressed emotions are stored within our organs. A lot of people don't realize it. A lot of unsuppressed emotions are stored in our muscles, are stored in our organs and things like that. And the other type of emotions are within the head activity, between
Mm,
the two hemispheres.
yeah.
So I think it's really important if you enjoy feeling good and feeling happy in a positive way,
Mm-hmm.
then do what you need to do to continue to feel that way.
Yeah. Yeah. And something as simple as pampering yourself, like
Yes.
a routine that makes you happy and that can help you relax and
Yes.
not be so tense all the time.
Yeah.
Like that's something that I have to get back into the habit of because I kind of like derailed from my routine. But I think that it's important and it's necessary because that's how that can determine a lot of how our week will go.
Oh
By
gosh, yeah.
just like pampering ourselves and making ourselves feel a lot better.
Hmm.
And when we feel better, we automatically feel good. And then that perhaps can boost our whole confidence.
Yep. It's like I know a few people. I know one particular woman. She enjoys running, and she works for HR, human resources, and her job role is very complex.
Mm,
But she enjoys running, so she runs in the morning or she runs in her lunch break,
wow.
and she comes back to a pile of work. But her perception of doing the work and getting through the work is a lot more clearer,
Hmm.
and she's a lot more motivated. So you do what you have to do to
Yeah.
start your day or end your day very well.
Yeah. Simple as that. You couldn't have said it better. Now, what is your favorite quote about what it means to be beautiful?
Oh, my favorite quote is actually from a discussion that I've had with my granddad. It's not actually a famous quote, even though I do have a few famous people like Maya Angelou, Michelle Obama, which is all spoken about in my podcast,
Mm-hmm.
what I've mentioned, and Emma Watson from Harry Potter. Love her as an actress. She,
Yeah.
what she stands for in beauty is something completely different from your average. So my favorite quote would be from the discussion that I've had with my granddad in regards to his life and experiences, and that quotation, even though it's said in a Jamaican format, so I have to break it down
Oh, I
into
love this.
into a English traditional, understandable, universal way of speaking. Is just
Mhm.
that beauty is in the attraction of the eye of the person rather than what they appear to look like. So the attraction is held in the eye of the person. It's similar to the quote of beauty is within the eye of the beholder.
Mhm.
It's very similar to that quote. So that's my favorite quote. And because, my granddad is one of my main influences,
Mhm.
um, I take it even more serious coming from a young man that's still young, even though he's 86. But coming from a man that's gone through a lot of experiences through life,
Wow.
being born from the 1930s. I mean, 1930s, and then you look at life
Wow.
now, 86 years on the earth of living and seeing different young people change, seeing society change, and
Yeah.
not living where you used to live, and yeah,
Mm.
it's all that. So I think to me, one of my favorite quotes is just the beauty is within the attraction of the eye of the person rather than how they physically look. That's my favorite quote. It's very
Wow.
simple, it's straight to the point.
Yeah,
Point.
straight to the point. It's so beautiful too, beautifully put together. And I mean, it describes a lot, and how, it's not just what you see,
No.
but like what you feel attracted to.
Hmm. Exactly what you feel. Because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, you know, it's one of those things that, again, visually, I put towards shopping. Sometimes I want a Ben and Jerry, and I know a particular flavor, as much as I like it, it's not good for me.
Mm-hmm.
It will bring out a certain rash or something like that. But it's your naked eye, what you want and what you see. Uh, you know,
Mm-hmm.
from what makes you feel good, that chocolate, that cookie dough. But really, it's not good for you.
Right.
It can be a bit of a conflict, so you have to substitute and find something different
Mm-hmm.
that's similar, that won't give you a negative kind of effective thing. It will just be pure and authentic to your happiness of how you like to feel. So I
Yeah.
see things sometimes very visually. I mirror them in a kind
Mm-hmm.
of a visual kind of way, to be honest with you. So yeah, I think beauty is definitely within the eye of the beholder. It's nothing more complicated. Very simple.
Oh, that's such a beautiful quote. I love that. So, Lachey, where can everyone find you?
Well, you can find me talking to you. Um,
I'll be providing the links down below.
you can find me talking to you, Myra, but you can find me on Instagram, the official Lushea Soul. Um, Emphasis on the soul there. I
Mm-hmm.
deliberately put that within my name because the soul is very important.
Mm-hmm.
And also you can find me on Facebook, you can find me on Twitter, and you can find me on YouTube as well.
Oh,
I've
I'd
got
have to
a
check it out.
few, yeah, I've got a few things that I've dibble dabbled to, and I've got more acting things to put on there as well. So I've got a few things. I've also got a online film trail from 4 years ago that I did with domestic violence.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
so that's on there as well. You've got my music videos and different things like that that I've indulged into. So you can find me on YouTube. It's all typed into the Google white box, that rectangle box of
Mm-hmm.
Lushea, Lucia, and podcast, and everything will pop up. You'll find me.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for being on my
No, thank you.
podcast and providing so many helpful insights. I really do appreciate everything that I've learned from you and having this important conversation. I think that it's necessary, especially for young girls out there, young boys who are just so insecure and lack of confidence, and it's just like you have to realize that it's a part of growing, and you can't compare all the time.
You can't, and you shouldn't, because it's just not healthy for you. It's just
Hmm.
not healthy.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you were able to kind of help them in a way see
Mm,
why we have those beliefs to kind of change it and live a much happier life.
it's very important. Very, very important. No, I'm definitely affirmative for that one, because I have niece and nephews, and I've coming from a teaching background as well, teaching young people, very passionate about that, and the way society has changed so much. I mean, I haven't lived on the earth for like 86 or 70 plus years, but
Hmm.
it's a bit worrying, because, as I said, the root of being humble and knowing yourself is becoming further and further away due to the advanced technology, and how you are supposed to be seen, to be accepted, and to be acknowledged as beautiful. And
Yeah.
it's that constant fight, that tug of war, where
Hmm.
people like myself and yourself, as podcasters or motivational speakers, we have to try and pull the mind concepts back to the original root, because technology and psychology, that they
Hmm.
pull they pull one another. They work in time, but they definitely pull. an individual, and we just have to do the best that we can as individuals, just pass the message around and spread the word, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's incredibly inspiring, and I'm glad that it's being talked about,
Yes.
and that hopefully future generations to come can like
Yeah.
feel more comfortable and most importantly love themselves, because once you do, nothing else can stop you. Nothing or no one. And
No, it's not just even the young ones. I think as well, whatever age you become a parent,
mhm,
that's also another conflict as well. Your parents can be a conflict because if your parents was not taught how to love themselves,
right.
then that offspring will then grow up to not know what loving themselves is. So
Mhm.
it's literally just educating, educating people from the educational pool. Be reminded and be centered within yourself. But it only can stem from people like you and me and bloggers and journalists, and it depends on the content that people are putting out there. It's a pull,
Mhm.
but
Yeah.
we've got to keep going. We've got to keep going.
Yes, exactly. Now, thank you again, Lushea. I appreciate everything. Everyone should go subscribe to your channel. I'll definitely be checking that out.
Thank
And
you.
I'm so excited to continue supporting you throughout your podcasting
And you
journey.
too. Oh, you too. Definitely.
Thank you.
Like I said, I'm a fan of yours now.
Oh,
I'm not going nowhere unless if you block me. I'm not going.
oh. Oh, it's so sweet. Well, I'm so happy to have that support and so happy that my listeners can hear such a great person to learn from.
Oh, thank
Of
you. Oh,
course.
thank you.
So, everyone, I really hope this podcast made you smile at least once. Stay tuned for more advice and positivity next Friday. As always, it's Myra. I hope everyone can take so many great pieces of advice that we had to share, and that you really start feeling comfortable in your own skin, because remember, we're all beautiful in our own ways and we're also so unique. So, whether it's beauty, whether it's being handsome, like we just have to feel better. And as long as we're being true to ourselves and transparent, we're already like more than halfway there. Bye.